Now, in a rare political statement, Prince William has said that too many people have been killed in the Israel-Hamas war and has called for the fighting to end as soon as possible. While meeting aid workers at the British Red Cross headquarters in London today, the Prince said he clings to the hope that a brighter future can be found and refuses to give up on that. He insisted there is a desperate need for increased humanitarian support to Gaza and emphasised it's critical that aid gets in and the hostages are released. William's also on a mission to tackle the global rise of anti-Semitism and plans to listen to young people speaking about their experiences of anti-Jewish hatred. Stepping out of the shadows and championing causes close to his heart is the Prince, following in his father's footsteps. I think this was very significant today, actually, that and we know that, as I said, he's going to go to a synagogue later in a few days' time. It was the statement, the visit itself, visiting the Red Cross, that's kind of a royal type of, quite standard thing to do. But I think the fact that William was the first ever senior royal to visit the occupied Palestinian territories in 2018. He's spoken extensively since then about how that affected him. There were very famous pictures of him playing football with some Palestinian children. I don't know if you remember that. So this is something that he's got a bit of form on. It's not just that he's jumped in out of the blue, even though it might feel a bit like that today. But this is very political. We know from talking about it endlessly on this show, this is something the Labour Party struggled with. It's something that the politicians are constantly being asked, how far will you go? Will you call for a ceasefire? What about anti-Semitism? What about the marches? So for William to get into this area, I think, is quite a big deal. He wouldn't have, and he didn't do it without talking to the Foreign Office. We know that the Foreign Office briefed Downing Street on what William was saying, which I think again shows you that this is a big deal. William has had talks in the past with Netanyahu, with Mahmoud Abbas. So I applaud this, but it's dangerous territory. I think it's not without risk.
I don't think it's dangerous territory because I don't think he's been politically motivated in what he said. I think he's given a common sense viewpoint. I think he's clearly making sure that he has a purpose. It's making sure that the institution has a point of view where it can be helpful. I don't think it's overly politicised in terms of what he said, but I think it's tremendously important that at the same time as him talking about, look, it doesn't matter who you are, everybody would like to see an end to the fighting. The question is on what terms. He didn't talk about the terms, he didn't talk about what needs to be done, he didn't talk about ceasefire, he just said an end, and he's also highlighted that there's a humanitarian crisis and that needs international attention. Both of those things, I think, are absolutely fine. I also think it's important, hand in hand, to have this conversation about anti-Semitism, because I think when it comes to people talking about the war and Israel's attack on Hamas, they don't necessarily talk about it hand in hand with anti-Semitism, and I'm afraid that's when it begins to get out of control. So I am pleased he's spoken about it. I think it was very clearly well thought out, and I hope he's going to do more of it.
Yeah. And I don't think it's dangerous territory. I think it's sensitive territory, and I agree with James. I think they've taken care that it is balanced, so that today he was meeting aid workers working in Gaza, and then in a few days or soon he will be meeting young people at a synagogue, so that they are balanced. But it would be odd to me that he wouldn't comment, that he wouldn't even acknowledge that this huge thing is going on, and he's the future king. I think that.
But ordinarily, Emma, they haven't commented.
I know.
I know.
Events, although but it's been done carefully, it's been done in a nuanced way.
This would also
and I think it feels more in touch with the world. This is what people are talking about.
And this would have gone through Downing Street before it even
it
came from the Prince, of course. I think it's quite clever in a way, what he's done. I think it gives him a relevance with from a royal perspective. I know that's not what this is about, but it gives him a relevance, I think, with a younger audience, if that is the right term. But it does seem to be that strange game a lot of people are playing. How can you say ceasefire without saying ceasefire?
Yeah.
We've had it from Starmer, we've had it from David Cameron, we've now got this. I don't blame him, by the way, because that would be incredibly political if he went there. I think he's been pretty neutral on it. I think fair play to him, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the people who want to hear royals say a little bit more sometimes.
But I think I agree with Dave. I think it is dangerous because he's spoken on this. What about the next conflict? What about conflicts happen further afield than this? What about conflicts in Africa? He's not going to comment on those. So then where do you draw the line? Because there's countries in Africa that previously Great Britain has had a lot of involvement in historically. and we don't do anything to try and stop those. But with this one, this is something that he feels he should be able to speak about. And I feel like he was forced into doing this because after the atrocities on October 7th last year, he and Princess Kate put out a statement. The political landscape has changed since then a little bit. People are now, some people are saying genocide is what's going on in Palestine. So it would now look bad on the history books if he spoke out about one set of atrocities in this conflict and didn't speak out about the changing scene now.
I think that's what I meant by it, and I totally agree, Emma, that dangerous territory, sensitive territory. I was saying it's not that it's dangerous to have feelings about this issue, but it's dangerous for a leader, the next in line to the throne, on an issue that is very, very political and is, as you were saying, JG, is getting more political as time goes on. At the beginning, quite rightly, pretty much everybody's concern was sympathy with Israel, sympathy with the wider Jewish community. As time has gone on, there have been cracks in that sympathy as people have watched the death and destruction happen in Palestine. And that's where the danger is, the political danger. But I mean...
Well, interesting that you say in Palestine, there is no such place.
In Gaza.
In Gaza. I just say occupied Palestinian territory.
Yeah, but that again, it just shows how difficult it is to talk about this particular conflict.
Yes.
Because there are so many issues which some people get really very het up about.
Absolutely.
James, it was only a few months ago that you were saying anyone who calls for a ceasefire knows nothing about what is going on over there. And now we see so many more world leaders coming out who know a lot more about the situation than I do, calling for a ceasefire. So, I think people are going to make slips of the tongue. People are going to say things. I don't think it negates the feeling of what people generally want, which is hostages to be freed and for Gaza to be free.
But also, they want to see, or certainly the Israelis' side wants to see Hamas defeated, because again, there are a lot of people who are not prepared to accept that Hamas do not recognise Israel as a nation.
I think everyone wants to see Hamas defeated, absolutely, but we don't want to see more dead children.
No, we certainly don't.